So, welcome to today's video, and we are talking today about staining and granulation. And I wanted to do this video because I've seen so many videos on YouTube stating that watercolors are either staining or granulating, and that is just not true. I'm really sorry, but it is that this information is wrong, and I wanted to show you also proof that this information is not correct. A color can be staining or granulating. It can be also staining and granulating. And it can be only granulating or only staining, or neither, non-granulating and non-staining. I show you here the Schminke dot card, and you have here this triangle symbols. The white one is for non-staining and the black for staining, and we have the G for granulation. And I will show you some examples. We have here, for example, the rose madder. It is a non-granulating, non-staining color, so it would be in the first category for the swatches I want to show you. Then we have the staining and non-granulating as well. So we have, for example, the Perylene Violet with a black triangle, but no G for granulation. We also have non-staining and granulating. So we have a G for granulation, but also the white triangle, like the cobalt violet hue. And we have staining and granulating, like those two cobalt green pure and cobalt green dark. They are both staining and granulating. And like I said, I've seen so many videos about this theme, and there is so much misinformation, because I've seen beginners as well as professional artists stating that a color has to be either granulating or staining, and they can't be both. That watercolors are completely separated in these two categories, and that is just not true. And I've show you here the dot card as well from Daniel Smith, just to show that it's not a thing Schminke does only, but it is something that is over all brands the same. The best thing I think is you have different properties of things, and that also is true, of course, for watercolors. And staining or non-staining is one property, while non-granulating or granulating is another property. The best comparison I can come up to at the moment is your hair. Your hair can be long or short, but it also can be dark or light, blonde or brown, or if you have dyed it blue, pink, or what else. So you have one property, that is the color of your hair, and the other one is the length of your hair. That are two completely different things, and that is the same for staining or non-staining, and granulation and non-granulation. We have so many colors, and of course the part of colors which are granulating and staining, this is a very small part of the colors. The other groups are bigger, at least if you go with single pigment colors. That is also something I wanted to do, to concentrate more on single pigment colors, because then we don't have the discussion that it is just a combination of one color which is staining and one color which is granulating, and that's why the reason why the color is now staining and granulating, because we fused two different pigments. That was the reason why I wanted to, at least most of the colors I am swatching now for you, to be single pigment colors, so that we don't have this discussion, and I can show you that one pigment can be both or neither, or either. So sorry, I have to drink some water in between because my mouth is too dry. Okay, so I start with the first color, and this is Vermilion Light. It is from Schminke Horadam. For all the swatches, I have used different brands, but I have always only concentrate on artist quality paints, because I thought when we do this test, then I want the highest quality possible. Of course, some student grade paints also offer pigment information like Schminke Academy or Cotman or Van Gogh, but and some other brands don't. But I, like I said, wanted to concentrate on the artist grade. So when I now say Schminke, I always mean Schminke Horadam. If I say Winsor Newton, then I mean Winsor Newton Professional, just so that you know. Saves me a little bit of time if I don't have to tell this every time I mention a brand now. So the pigment here is PR188. I will later put the pigment information underneath the swatches, so you can see everything then more easily and don't have to remember the pigments. The next color I will be swatching is also a color from Schminke. It is Rose Madder, and it's a combination of PR83 column 1 and PR48 column 4. I'm not quite sure about the PR48, to be honest, what kind of red that is. This is a color, a pigment that which is rarely used. I've seen it in some cheaper brands, but the PR83 is definitely the genuine Rose Madder. So it is a plant-based pigment, which is super sensitive to light. It will fade very quickly. It's also the same pigment which the genuine alizarin crimson is made of. And the column 1 states the particular shade of this pigment. I think that there might be different column numbers for the darker version, which is the alizarin crimson, and the lighter version, which is the Rose Madder, but I'm not really sure about that. So if you have any information about that, then please share it with us. I would really love to know. I never researched that, to be honest. Rose Madder, the genuine one, is something I rarely use and I probably won't buy again. The genuine alizarin crimson is another thing, because that is a dark, such a dark, beautiful red, and I absolutely love it. And none of the hues I've seen are exactly like this color is. So I use that color a lot, but only in work. I know I won't hang up a wall or sell or give to someone else. So mostly in sketchbook works. The Rose Madder from Genuine from Winsor Newton has a little specialty, because they've included, I don't know why, bergamot oil. So it smells really citrusy, which is really funny. So the last one is the Naples Yellow from Daniel Smith, and that's also a convenient mix. I know I've said I wanted to concentrate on single pigment colors, but it was really took me really a lot of time to go over all my dot cards to find different colors from different brands for this swatch test. And I think the most important category will be the last, where we swatch colors which are granulating and staining. So yeah, I thought in the other categories it's not that super important, because that is something which we all know, that colors exist that are only staining or only granulating, for example. But yeah, like I said, it took a lot of time, and I wanted to for most of the swatches, or all of the swatches except for one color, I wanted to use the colors I have in tubes or in pans, so that I have enough of the color, and don't want to use the little dots from the dot card, because the swatches are quite big, and I've already used the dot cards for the dot cards themselves and for some other videos, like my cobalt videos, for example, which I will include some links in the description box below if you haven't seen those videos so far. But yeah, so isn't a lot of color left, and that's the reason why I wanted to concentrate on colors I really own. So that was the first category, was non-staining and non-granulating. That are these three colors. And I will do a lifting test in the end. And I will do one lifting test when I've done all the swatches and when the swatches are dried. But we will also do another lifting test on the same swatches here after 24 hours. So I left the paper to dry for 24 hours. Then we will do another lifting test. And also, because this is a 100% cotton cellulose paper, I'm sorry, that is a 100% cellulose paper, I wanted to do a lifting test for 100% cotton as well, which we will do in the end of the video, because not also that is it important which pigments or colors you use. It is also important for the liftability of colors if you are using cellulose paper or cotton paper, for example, because with cotton paper, the colors and the pigments settle in deeper layers of the paper. They really sink into the fibers, and so the liftability is after a while worse than, for example, on a cellulose paper, where the color and the pigments really sit on top of the paper and don't sink into the deeper layers. That is the reason why it is, if you want to have your colors when they are dry more permanent, so that you can do lots of layers, it is much easier if you're working with 100% cotton paper, and much harder with, for example, a cellulose paper. So depending on, of course, what you are drawing, how you are drawing, what colors you use, and what paper you use, the properties of the pigments and the colors will always slightly vary. That is just something I want you to be aware of. That is also the reason why I wanted to include this test with the cellulose and the cotton paper, because I know some people only use cotton paper, some use only cellulose paper, some use both. And of course, paper is something which can really make a big impact on your money, because cotton papers are super expensive, and I know a lot of people don't have the money to work with a 100% cotton paper. So that was the reason why I, of course, also wanted to include the test on pure cellulose paper as well, because I think a 100% cellulose paper is the paper which the most people use. And sorry, only a smaller part uses cotton paper. Of course, we have also mixed papers like with 50% cotton and 50% cellulose, but I've also seen 70% cellulose and 30% cotton, as well as 70% cotton and 30% cellulose and stuff like that. So there are different options as well. If you say a 100% cotton is just too expensive, you can go for a mixed version, which will be, you will feeling a lot of the cotton properties on this paper. I can say this because I have a 50-50 paper as well as a 70% cellulose and a 30% cotton paper. I've used both of them, and I must say I'm super impressed that the version with only 30% cotton, still I can feel so much difference to 100% cellulose paper, even when the cotton part is only that little. So just that you know this. Also, if you buy your cotton paper, if you want to save a lot of money, then buy it in sheets. That is by far the most cheap option to get hands on a 100% cotton papers. There you have to look up in the stores. Some only sell the whole package of 10 sheets, but some sellers also offer to buy single sheets. And you just have to look it up, which is which saves you the most money. I've seen that you can also buy the cotton paper in rolls, but most times the rolls are more expensive than the sheets. That is the experience I've done. Of course, I can only tell you from my experience, and depending on which part of the world you live, it can be completely different. But that is just something I've learned over time. And some brands offer sheets, some offer only rolls, some offer both. So depending on which paper you want to buy or which you say is your favorite and you want to buy, just take a look. What do they offer and what is the cheapest option for you? So in this category, we have the first is the Perylene Violet from Winsor Newton. It's the PV29. The second one I've swatched is the Ruby Red from Schmincke Radam. It's a PV19. So it's a quinacridone rose. And the last one is a quinacridone purple from Daniel Smith. It's a PV55. And most of the quin pigments are at least a little bit staining or completely staining. So that's why I have two different quin pigments in here. That was the staining but non-granulating box. Now we are going to the non-staining and granulating watercolors. And there I have also 3 different single pigment swatches for you. So I tried to vary between color families or pigment families, better said, but sometimes it was not so easy to find good examples on the dot cards because the information is so little and the dot cards are so big and there are so many different colors. It was really, I've took a lot of hours for me to go through all the dot cards I have and find good examples. So of course there are a lot more a lot more colors for each category. I've only reduced it to 3 to have some examples. I don't want to swatch only one color because there would be the argument maybe that that one color is the exception, and all the other colors are different. So that's the reason I wanted to show you some different colors. They are not the exception. And for the last category, I will do 5 different colors instead of only the 3 I've done in the other ones. So the first one here is the cobalt violet hue from Schminke. That's a PV62, and that isn't, of course, a cobalt pigment, but it is a super beautiful granulating violet here, and can get really dark. I've not used that much pigment, but it can go super dark, and that is something very special to this color, because dark and granulating violet is a rarity. And the pigment is a strontium violet, and I know only 3 major brands offering this color. It is Schminke, the German brand Lucas also offers it as a cobalt violet hue. They just don't include the pigment number on this. They only stated it as strontium violet in the pigment information. And now Roman Schmal also offers strontium violet. The color is just newly released, so that is completely new. That was also always the funny thing for me, is that before Roman Schmal released their strontium violet, was the fact that only 2 German brands offer this pigment. I honestly, I don't know why others don't, because it's such a beautiful color, and it is very heavily dark granulating violet. So it is, I don't know any other violet pigment that dark which granulates that strongly. So I've thought normally that would be a pigment that is used a lot more, because also for the reason of the light fastness, because it's it has a very good light fastness rating as well. And that is something also a lot of violet pigments don't have. So Schminke says 4 of 5 stars, so it has a very good light fastness rating. Yeah, don't know why. If you know why others don't offer this color, then leave me please a comment. I would love to hear the reasons for that. So this I've swatched now is Viridian, a genuine Viridian PG18. This is also from Schminke. That is a yeah, pretty standard color. A lot of brands offer this color. Also because it's a more expensive pigment. When you are buying cheaper watercolors or student-grade watercolors, for example, they mostly don't use the true Viridian. They always use a phthalo green. Just call it Viridian or emerald green or something like that. But don't use the genuine pigment, because it's more expensive. So in artist grade, you will find the genuine one, like here from Schminke. It is a pigment which rewets not so easily. So brands which are using honey, like Emgram or Roman Schmal, for example, rewets, of course, more easily than brands like Schminke here, which aren't using honey. you can, when you squeeze the paint from your tube into your palette, then you can add some honey and mix it and let it dry. Then you have also a color which is more easily to revert. If you are vegan or vegetarian, you can also use glycerin instead of honey. So you have a vegan alternative for that. Glycerin also helps that the color reverts more easily. I think, in my experience, honey helps a little bit more than glycerin, but doesn't matter. To be honest, I don't have added any honey or glycerin to my Schminke Viridian. I just put some drops of water, let it sit for a few minutes, and then I don't have any problems at all. But if you are not patient enough to wait, then I can recommend either swirling some honey or glycerin in the wet paint from the tube before you let the color dry in your pan or your palette. So sorry. I always, when I do the vocal recording for the videos, then most of the times I have problems with my mouth being too dry. So I try to compensate it with a little bit of drinking water, but yeah, because I am using the good headset from my husband for that videos, I can only do the recordings when he don't need it for work or when our kids are still in school, because it would be way too loud otherwise. And I don't want screaming my screaming kids in the background of the voice recording. So yeah, that's also the reason why I mostly do not only one recording, but more recordings after another. And that's also doesn't help with my dry situation in my throat or my mouth. But yeah, you can only work uh, with the possibilities you have. Okay, so now we will come to the most important category, colors which are granulating and staining, which a lot of videos tell you that colors like that don't exist because it's either staining or granulating. I don't know where this misinformation started, to be honest, but it is super widely spread in the community, and I don't want with this video to say, oh, they're wrong. Don't watch their videos or something like that. I just want to clear up this misinformation. And I think everyone doing videos like that do the videos with best interest in mind and do them really to want to spread more information and help other artists or beginners. And I just wanted to clear up, it is not with evil intent here to frame some people with a misinformation, but I just had the intention to clear that misunderstanding up because I think it's so important. Because if you look at colors and you say you, for example, need for your work only colors which are staining or non-staining, then of course, if you have the information wrong, it will impact very heavily which colors you buy and which colors you work with, for example. And maybe you see some colors and think, oh, they are so beautiful and I really, really want to work with them, but they are non-staining or they are staining, and that's the reason why I can't use them. And or for example, these colors are granulating, and I really want to work with granulating colors, but I need colors which are staining, and granulating colors can't be this. Then of course you maybe don't work with colors you really like optically from their color, from their shade, or from their granulation. And that's the reason why I think it is so important to spread the information that this is a misunderstanding, a misinformation, and that colors can be staining and can be granulating. It can also be neither of both or just one of them. And yeah, because it has a huge impact on which colors we work with or which color we buy. And this is the main reason I wanted to clear up this misinformation. And also because if you want to dig in deeper to get more knowledge of watercolors, it is of course important that you don't work with a wrong information as well. So yeah, that's just said to that's the reason for the video. So the first one I've swatched, I already wrote it down. It's Caput Mortem from Schminke, and it's a PR 101 combined with a PR 206. Normally most other brands offer a Caput Mortem which is single pigmented, and probably Schminke will maybe swatch to a single pigment version now as well, because the PR 206 is no longer in production, sadly. The next one was the Manganese Blue Hue from Daniel Smith, and that's a PB 15 in combination with whatever to make this color granulating, and also fluorescent, which is in this color. The third one I've swatched here is a pure PR 101. It's a Venetian Red from Daniel Smith. And in the end, I will also swatch two different colors underneath. But before I will swatching them, we will be doing the lifting test. And like I said, I will do a lifting test now when they are dry. And we will do also another lifting test after 24 hours, so that you can see if there is any difference. Like I said, depending on the pigment and the paper, it can change the liftability after time if the pigment sinks deeper into the fibers of the paper, which happens more with the cotton papers. And I will do a 24-hour lifting test on a 100% cotton paper from Arches. That's the correct way to pronounce. Most people I know say Arches to the company, but I really did look it up how to pronounce it correctly, and it is Arches. And I have done all the colors I have swatched here, including the two bonus colors in the last category. I've swatched them on 100% cotton paper. It's a cold pressed. I think it's a little bit less than 300 GSM. I've bought it in big watercolor sheets. Yeah, just wanted to show that as well, because there is a big difference between cotton and cellulose papers. So if you use either or both, so that you just can see how differently the colors can behave with the liftability on different papers. I know that cotton papers are very expensive. Also, that is the reason why a lot of people don't use it. I have, for most of my years, as well, because when I started as a kid with watercolors, of course, as a child and teenager, I didn't have the money to buy more expensive watercolor paper, but also I didn't know about the difference. So I bought the cheapest one I could get my hands on at the time. It was before online shopping, so we only have one little art store in my home city. So the possibilities were very limited. And yeah, I I've also worked with cellulose paper long after that, because I never thought that would be make so much difference, but it is. Paper is one of the most important things when doing art, and I can say, of course, I can only recommend working with cotton paper, because it's so much better and easier to do things. And I had techniques I've tried to use which didn't work on my cellulose paper and got me super frustrated. And I always thought it is because of me, because I'm just not good enough, or I just can't do this. And it was only the paper which didn't work with that technique. And when I switched to cotton, it really blew my mind. So I have still a lot of cellulose paper left, and I of course will use that up as well. But when I've really used everything up, I probably won't buy any cellulose paper, at least to work with. Maybe a cheap block for doing some swatch testing when I'm coloring my stuff, but not to work on it completely. So we start with the first category, which is non-staining and non-granulating. Of course, as a non-staining color, the colors lift very easily. I only go over it for a short time. I didn't want to scrub for a super long period, because that would be not a good way to see if colors lift easily. So yeah, only a short time, and then I will go over the swatch with a towel, just to get the wet parts off the paper. I've only used a wet brush, and nothing else. Just dip it in some water. Look that it is more on the damper and not on the dripping wet side, because then you can, if you are using too much water, you will get nasty nasty water lines from the thick water blobs. So yeah, just my personal recommendation. So here, of course, on the staining and non-granulating side, you will see that the colors lift, but they aren't lifting completely. You have some residue on the white strip, and on some colors you will see it better than others. I will give you a close-up later in the video, so you can see it more easily, because now when I look at it on a small window, I have the video, it looks very bright white, but it isn't. I have the dried swatches next to me, and when I look at them, it is a lot there's a lot more color on it than I'm seeing over the video. And you can see here that with the green purple, you can really see that the strip isn't white. It is more like light purplish color. So that's a good example for a staining color. So the next one is, of course, the non-staining and granulating. So they lift, of course, more easily than the colors we have just done now. And you will see, of course, with the last category that, of course, these colors are similar to the second row with the staining non-granulating colors, because both sets of colors are staining colors, so we will have more residue in those white strips. When you look at it now, you can here see some spots on the ruby red where it's more pinkish, and of course here you can see it super easily that there is a lot of color residue on the area where I've done the lifting test. And this is similar on the last row. Of course, when a color is staining, it can also be more staining. Some colors are more staining than other colors. Depending on the brand, Schminke has this triangle. You have either the white one for non-staining or the black one for staining, but you also have one which is half and half, so medium staining. And other brands like Daniel Smith, for example, they have a number system. I think it's from around 1 to 4 or something like that. And they've done more detailed information about the liftability or staining of a color. And you can see here with, especially with the two red iron oxide colors, that there is a lot of residue from the color. So you don't get clean white stripes when you are doing a lifting the color here. Before we switching to we are switching to the cotton paper, I will do 2 additional colors. And the first one is Indian Red by Daniel Smith. It's also a PR 101, but a different one. And with iron oxide colors, there is a lot of difference between how much they stain and how much they granulate, depending if it's a synthetic version or a natural version. And from the naturals, of course, also where from which part of the world the pigment is coming from. The properties of the colors are not all PR 101 is the same, so that's the reason why I've included here different versions of it. And the second additional color I will swatching here is the Cobalt Green Pure from Schminke. I don't know why I will be writing down PG50 because it's a PG19. And like I said, I have not only the Cobalt Green Pure here, but also the Cobalt Green Dark. That's a PG26, and also on the upper row, the Cobalt Green Turquoise, PB36. That's the darker turquoise, the first color on the right side. They are all staining and granulating colors. Of course, we have here the iron oxides, we have here the cobalt pigments. Like I said, there aren't that much pigments which are both. Another color which is at least medium staining and a little bit granulating would be cadmium red, for example. Of course, there is also the very strongly granulating cadmium red from the super granulating line, the cobalt, not the cobalt, the Vulcan red. That's a pure cadmium red. But that are also colors which at least are medium staining and at least a little bit granulating. Like I said, the only exception is the Vulcan red because that is heavily granulating. That is completely different to other cadmium reds. But that would be also a color which at least has a little bit of the properties from both properties. It wasn't that easy to find a lot of example for this category because it isn't something which is super widely spread over the range of watercolors we have, but at least some pigments are out there which have at least a granulating and staining property. But like I said, the other categories, only granulating and non-staining or only staining and non-granulating, are a lot bigger. So yeah, of course, it isn't easy to find a lot of colors for the last category, but they still exist. And that was the thing I really wanted to get out there, that it isn't the question of either it has to be a granulating or a staining color, but we have so many different combinations here. We can have colors which are neither. We can have colors which are only granulating or only staining, like in those misunderstood or misinformational videos, or we can have the combination of both. We can have colors which granulates and also are staining. So I just had to wait a little bit to get them dry enough to do the lifting test. You can, of course, also lift a watercolor when it's still wet. But for this test, I wanted them to be dry because, of course, it is easier to lift them while the colors are still wet, and you can't really make that much of a difference when the color is still wet. You also can lift staining watercolors a lot more easily when they are wet in comparison to when they are dried. And of course, I wanted to get the best comparison, and that would be for the colors to be dry. And that is also the reason why I said I will do the lifting test here when they are dried, but also a second lifting test when the colors are dried for 24 hours. So you can see here that the Indian red also has a lot of residue, and also the cobalt green. The cobalt green really is the most extreme when it comes to the difference between cotton and cellulose paper. You will see this on when we do the lifting test for the cotton paper. That is the most extreme example. So these three colors here I've just pointed on are, for my personal opinion, the ones which are most staining on the swatches I have done here. Like I said, some colors which are staining are more staining than others. It just depends on the pigment, but also, of course, things like which paper you're using. Also, some pigments sometimes behave a little bit different between brands, because if you have a brand using like something like honey, colors revert more easily, and of course they behave a little bit different to other brands which or who are you don't use anything like glycerin or honey or something like that, for example. So every brand has their unique recipe for how they are doing their watercolor, if they're using other things like ox gall or um, essential oils or stuff like that. That all can make an impact on how the colors behave. So this now the second lifting test for this paper is the one I've done after 24 hours, or I better said a little bit over 24 hours. And on some colors the difference isn't that big, but on some others the difference is easily to spot. So especially in the rows where I have colors which are staining, you can see a difference between the 24-hour lifting test to the one I've done prior to that. I know that the video is super long in comparison to my other videos, so um, thank you for all those of you which are patient enough or interested enough to watch the whole video. So thanks a lot. So here on the last row, there are some of the colors which have a very big difference. I think the Venetian red is one of them, where the 24-hour lifting test is a lot darker than the one I took before. I will also show you a close-up of the swatches in a minute. And I will also show you a comparison between the cotton paper ones and the cellulose paper ones. So I will show them side by side so that you can see the difference very easily. So that are the swatches I've done on the fine, grain fine cold pressed arch paper. 100% cotton. Like I said, it's not 300 GSM because I had a lot of problems when I've ordered my watercolor sheets. I don't know why, but at the time it was really hard for the shop to get hold of the paper. And I have waited for over 3 months for the 300 GSM one. So I've bought one set of thinner paper because it was available at the time, and I hadn't to wait. Hadn't. Oh, damn it! Sometimes really I have problems with talking. I'm so sorry about that. I'm a lot better with English when I'm just listening to it or reading it, or if I can write it, because I have a lot more time to think about about it, and I really get nervous all the time when I'm talking English because I make so many mistakes with pronunciations and times and things like that. So I'm really, really sorry now. It is not the best, but at least it is good enough. I think that you can understand what I'm talking about. Yeah, so just so you know what kind of paper I used for this swatches here. And like I said, the most difference really is in the cobalt green. So that will be on the second piece of paper. I've done here um, the same colors like I've done on the cellulose paper, starting with the bigger sheet here with the vermilion light from Schminke. Then we have the rose madder from Schminke, Naples yellow from Daniel Smith, the perylene violet from Winsor Newton Professional, then the ruby red from Schminke, the quin purple from Daniel Smith, the cobalt violet hue from Schminke, the viridian from Schminke, the cerulean blue from Daniel Smith. That's the last one in this row. I'm not quite sure, to be honest, why this one is so much darker than the one I've done on the cellulose paper. That is the only thing because I haven't written it down on this sheets here. It may be that I've accidentally used a PB36 on this one. So that's the reason why it looks so different to the other one. Either I have accidentally took the other pigment, or I've just used way more paint on that one. So this one here, we have the first one I've done just now is the Caput Mortuum from Schminke. Then the blue I am doing now is the manganese blue hue from Daniel Smith. The next one is Venetian red from Daniel Smith. Then we have the Indian red from Daniel Smith. And the last one, of course, is the cobalt green pure from Schminke. And there you will really see that this color can be super staining because I hardly get any paint off. It's very, very, I could lift very little color on that swatch here. So, like I said, we will do a side-by-side comparison with a close-up, so you can see these swatches a lot better, and also how much residue or less residue we have in the lifting test. Here you can also see that the ruby red is a lot lighter in the lifting test on the cellulose paper, as well as the quin purple is a lot darker here on the cotton paper as well. I think that is something which is very easily spotted. Must say, I also, when I can, in reality, I can look super closely at the colors, then also the residue on the non-staining colors is more than on the cotton paper than on the cellulose paper. Damn it, did I say that now correctly? The residue is more on the cotton paper than on the cellulose paper, so sorry. So yeah, here the Indian red, for example, it looks a lot darker, and you can really see now on the green, on the cobalt green, how fair the lifting test is on the cotton paper in comparison to the cellulose paper. It's really the best example for that this is a color which is very staining, also granulating. So yeah, that is I would say the best example for the combination of those properties. So I hope that this super long video was interesting for you and that it was helpful. Maybe you got some new information, and I could clear up this misinformation, which is sadly super widely spread. And yeah, maybe leave me a comment for your own experiences. Or if you have any questions, of course, then also just leave me a comment. And I would be super thankful for a follow or a thumbs up, because it will really help the channel to get bigger. And yeah, I thank you so much for watching this super long video. And I wish you a wonderful day and hopeful see you soon in another video. Bye bye.